White's Contender Series is fully underway after a wild week 1. We have reached week 2, and this is 100% my favorite time of the year to be a fight fan. The Contender Series, you got the PFL playoffs, and of course you've got your typical weekly UFC cards. This time of year, you get so many big time fights, so much going on. You got even the Ultimate Fighters wrapping up, so you've got all of that coming together at once. We're here, week 2, Dana White's Contender Series. In this one, we've got a welterweight matchup. It is a matchup that I think is going to be very exciting for as long as it lasts. We have Pat Pitlick. Yes, his name is Pitlick. I've confirmed this with someone who knows him. It is pronounced Pitlick. That would be rough in elementary school. And, maybe that's why he became a fighter. Because I can't imagine growing up with the name Pitlick and not having children just pick on you relentlessly. So you got to learn to fight, right? So for Pat, I'm guessing that's where it began. I haven't interviewed him. I would love to. I would love to ask him about this. But yeah, so Pat Pitlick probably learned to fight on the playground, under the slide, you know what I mean? That's what my guess is. On the other side, a guy with a normal name. We have Andreas Gustafsson. Andreas Gustafsson, if you haven't seen his fight with Tony Lampinen, I think is how you say it, my goodness, you got to go back and watch that. Go watch that fight. Even if you're the person that's like, I watched your breakdown, so I don't have to watch tape. Go watch that one because it is a bloodbath and you're going to enjoy it. That is a crazy, crazy fight. But let's get to this matchup. This is the matchup you guys came here to talk about, so that's what we're going to do. Both of these guys are 4-1 in their last 5 fights. Both are very skilled fighters. It's kind of a striker versus grappler matchup. Pitlick being the striker, Gustafsson having that Greco-Roman style wrestling background. And it isn't likely to play out just in the same way as a striker versus grappler because we've seen Gustafsson willing to throw hands and trade with people, much like in that Lampinen fight, like I mentioned. The guy's willing to get into a scrap, and he's durable and he's tough, so that is something that he could do. Let's break down his skills first. So, guy's a decent striker. It's not really pretty, but he's got good pressure, tons of volume, and he's got that barrage style. Like, he'll just come forward and just start throwing these shots. They're not pretty shots. Like I said, he's quite a bit reckless. But when he comes forward, he's putting the volume on you, and he's putting that pressure on you, and he's working to get you up against the cage where he can start working you over there. Because he is a good grappler with a good cage push, and that's where he's going to win minutes in this fight if he's going to be winning minutes. It's going to be in that cage push, grinding on his opponent, grinding on Pitlick. He's also going to be using that the elbows and knees just to cut him up, beat him up, and that's where you see a lot of the blood come from in that Lampinen fight, is he's able just to start landing big, heavy elbows in the clinch. But so for Gustafsson, if he can get that barrage going, just like that's what it looks like. I understand that looked like not very pretty form on my punches. That's not because I can't punch. It's because I'm mimicking what he does. It's kind of like this. It's like that. That's when he comes forward. It's strange. And then he'll start throwing some big stuff around the outside. It's not pretty, but it's effective at getting his opponents to back up to that cage, and that's where he goes for that. He does have some pretty good upper body takedowns. It's typical of the Greco-Roman style, and he has really good ground and pound volume once he gets to fight to the mat. His pressure and pace is what he's going to need to utilize in this matchup to get the most out of it. On the other side, Pat Pitlick. This dude is a striker pretty much all the way through. He doesn't want to grapple his opponents. He wants to strike with them all the way. And he's very good at it, right? Got good power. All 9 of his wins are by knockout. So that's something you like to see. Got good combinations, and he also likes to go forward. He does use the knees to the body to great success, and that's what I think he's going to need to do here because Gustafsson's shown that he can take a punch on the chin, right? But most fighters, when you hit them in the body enough, they start to crumble. So I think those knees to the body are going to be something that he's really going to need to implement in this matchup, as well as working the elbows on the clinch break. If he gets pushed up against the cage, if he can circle off and slam that elbow on the way out, that's something that he's going to want to do. So he's going to need to mind his P's and Q's, obviously not get pushed up against the cage. And if he does get pushed up the cage, do whatever he can to circle off and land damage on the break, because otherwise he's going to be losing minutes while he's just getting grinded on up against the cage. Grinded up? Yeah, whatever. Decent takedown defense, but he can be held up against the cage. So that's a problem for him. That's something that, if you see that, big advantage for Gustafsson here is that cage push, because we've seen Pitlick get held against the cage for a while before. He does know that when he's got an opponent hurt and knocks him down, he knows not to fully commit to grappling in the ground and pound. Now, we've seen that with some fighters before. Like back in the day, maybe I'm going to make a video on this at some point, but back in the day, when you would hit somebody and drop them and you go to the ground, you'd just get into full mount and just start raining down punches like that. Now, people are so good from the bottom that they make it so hard to just commit to your strikes when you're doing your ground and pound. And guys are having to like, use more time to control, lessen the ground and pound, and they're having to like, change the way that the ground and pound is done. You can't just sit in mount and just start unloading like you used to be able to. So for Pitlick, he'll stay in the standing position and throw his ground and pound from there and use his footwork to circle off as they try to get to his legs. So Pitlick does a good job about doing that after he drops his opponents. This matchup is going to be interesting for me because I think it's one of the tougher matchups on this card to call. There are two really tough ones on this card. This is one of them. And a lot of people are going to be picking Gustafsson because they know how tough he is, and they also know that he has that grappling advantage, and I understand that. But one thing that I know for sure is he's reckless on the feet, and they're looking for damage. And I've got to take Pitlick here because I think he's going to be able to land on Gustafsson so stinking much when this fight is in space. Yes, he can get pushed against the cage. Yes, that could be a big red flag for him, and he could end up losing the fight that way. But I think when this fight is in open space, Pitlick's going to be landing the way better shots. He's going to be cracking Gustafsson left and right. And I understand he's durable and tough and will keep coming forward. But it's just the amount of damage he's going to weather. I think even if it gets to the scorecards, even if Pitlick's been pushed against the cage for a while, I think it's going to go in favor of Pitlick with the shots that he's landing. So I'm taking Pat Pitlick to get this one done. Like I said, this is one of the less confident picks on the card just because there are some really, really confident picks on this one. But this one's a good fight, and it is a kind of a clash of styles, so I do like that. Speaking of likes, if you guys would like this video on your way out, I do appreciate it. Check out the rest of the videos on this playlist. It should have popped up on screen. If it has not, it's probably in your suggested videos. I appreciate it very much. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next fight.